Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar. I am so excited for you guys to be with us today. This is going to be a great topic. And let's see, I see Patricia here. I'm going to promote you to panelist so you can join me. And welcome to everyone else. So while we're kind of getting situated here, I would love to hear where you guys are from, but also because the topic of this webinar is choosing the publishing path that's right for you, I would love to hear in the chat, put in there if you are brand new, if you're not sure of your path, if you have chosen a path, or what you're doing as far as writing goes. Are you looking at a hybrid option? Are you looking at traditional? Are you looking at indie publishing? What are your goals? Go ahead and put that in the chat while we're getting settled in here. And Patricia, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Joy. I had some technical difficulties and couldn't find the link, so I
Oh,
apologize for getting in late. But
that's quite all right. That's quite all right. We got you in here. So I am going to do a quick introduction for you and a couple of housekeeping things for everybody, and then I will turn it right over to you.
thank you.
So well, first of all, let me get the housekeeping stuff out of the way. So if you guys have questions as Patricia is talking, there will be a Q&A box. It's located at the bottom of your screen. Sometimes you have to click that little more button to find it. But if you have a question, please drop it in there so it's easy for us to get to at the end. And then I think that's pretty much it. So I am going to introduce Patricia Marshall, if my screen will cooperate with me. All right. Patricia Marshall is the founder and owner of Luminare Press, a company that offers book design and publishing services for authors. A former magazine editor, she jumped into the self-publishing field in 2010 after her 89-year-old mother self-published her first novel. That experience, completed with a lot of family help, but with little professional guidance, led her to recognize that independent authors need the help and encouragement of publishing professionals. And that's how Luminare Press was born. Patricia enjoys talking to authors about the book business and leading a talented team of designers and editors who guide clients through publishing with patience and humor, always an important part. So I am going to turn it over to Patricia. This is Your Book, Your Way, Finding the Publishing Path That Fits.
Okay, well, thank you, Joy. I really appreciate that introduction, and I appreciate you and Alexa and the entire women in publishing community. It's been really uplifting to be part of this group. It's a group where everybody always wants to grow and learn, and I am really glad to be a part of it. So thank you for having me today. I am Patricia Marshall, as Joy said. I am the founder and owner of Luminare Press and the newly formed Lucent Book Group. Now, as Joy said, Luminare Press is a self-publishing assist company. We offer full publishing services to authors, from manuscript development to a full suite of editing services, book production and design, and publishing all versions of books, print books, ebooks, audiobooks. We also have a great suite of marketing services for our authors, and we have packages that we use, but we find that it mostly works when we talk to authors to put together things that are going to help them. So sometimes we start with a package, sometimes authors don't need everything that's in there, and we customize things quite regularly. Now, our authors do keep 100% of their royalties. That is part of the self-publishing assist business that we sort of really like for our authors. But last year I introduced a new imprint called Lucent Book Group that was aimed at nonfiction books. And I'll talk about that a little more at the end, but I just want you to know that those are two companies, but they're both under one umbrella. So I've been helping authors publish for more than 15 years now. And one thing I know for sure is that there is not one absolute right way to publish a book. It can be incredibly confusing for authors because you think, the guy next door published his book this way, this must be the way to do it. But that is just not the case. What's important is that you're figuring out what's best for you and your book. So today I'm going to start with a little overview of the publishing process. Then I'm going to explain some different sort of basic models for publishing, things you will hear out there. And then I'll talk about how or why you might pick one model over another. Um, so with that said, I'm going to share my screen here. Give me a minute because today has apparently not been my best tech day. Okay, and I want to share PowerPoint, share, and we're going to go to slideshow, play from start. Okay, so there's my intro screen. Let us talk a little bit. Let's just jump right in to the publishing landscape and what it looks like in 2026. Alexa mentioned, or I'm sorry, Joy mentioned that I started this business in 2010. And I will tell you, I have seen a sea of change, huge change just in the last couple years in publishing. But in 2026, first thing that you need to understand is that there are more than 4 million books that are independently published every year. That is a jump of a couple million from just a few years ago. So this is a field that is growing rapidly and probably will continue to grow rapidly. Along with those 4 million independently published books, there are a lot of companies offering publishing services like me, but there are also a huge number of scams out there. This is a topic I could talk about for hours. It is worth understanding, though, that you really need to vet anybody you're working with. The scams are sophisticated. They're using AI to prey on authors, and you really need to vet people you're working with if you are engaging in a publishing company. As I said earlier, there is not one perfect way. The guy on the internet doesn't have a perfect way. I don't have a perfect way. What's important is that you are picking the path that is best for you and your book. And in that sense, let's see. I want to be clear before I move on to the next slide that in this presentation, I'm not going to be talking about traditional publishing. I had somebody email me right before this asking about it, but I am not a traditional publisher where I pay authors to publish. I am self-publishing assist. So I'm going to cover some other different models, but if you want to land a traditional publishing deal, you are more than welcome to try for that. I do not discourage anybody from doing that, but you probably should understand what you're getting into. Given this publishing landscape, let's talk a minute about why people would decide to independently publish. So, a lot of authors are unwilling or unable to find an agent. If you go the traditional route, you are generally going to need an agent to do that, and that can be challenging. Some authors don't want to take the time that traditional publishing takes. Independent publishing can move on a shorter timeline, not because you cut corners on it, but because you're working on one book instead of many. Some authors write books that they don't want to market. They're writing family stories, they're writing memoirs, they are writing perhaps a specialty book that they only want to distribute to a certain audience, but they don't necessarily want to have it out there or are going to try and sell it. Authors who are writing business and how-to books, using them for professional recognition or to expand their platform, will often decide to go the independent publishing route because there's really no reason not to if you're using the book for business purposes. Lastly, I have heard of authors who are doing fiction series, who are building name brands and recognition. Those authors are very successful in the independent publishing world. So it's, if you're thinking along those lines, it's a really good reason to give it a second look, if indeed you are considering trying to find an agent. So if there is one message I want you to take home from this presentation, it is that self-publishing or independent publishing doesn't mean you do everything yourself. This, the very name sort of implies it's a DIY thing. That is not necessarily the case. So it doesn't mean you have to take on all the tasks yourself, but it does mean that you have to take on all the tasks yourself as a publisher because you're functioning as the publisher of your book and you're responsible for your book and your outcome. So while you don't have to do everything, you don't have to learn to be a cover designer and all the things that go with that. You do have to understand that you're responsible for those tasks and understand how to get them done. So when we talk about publishing, it's sort of a simple thing on the surface. You are taking a manuscript, which you have written, you are creating a product, which is your book, and you are making that available for sale. So that is it's very, very self-explanatory. But within that, there are a myriad of complex tasks. So when I say that you're taking on the tasks, these are some of the things that I'm talking about. When we talk about book production, we include everything, any level of editing, from your sort of big picture developmental editing down to your final proofread before the book is published. We are talking about cover design, which includes the front, the spine, and the back of the cover, along with your back cover text, which is very important. That's not a throwaway item that you want to do. You want to dial that in because that's how readers are introduced to your book. We're talking about the interior layout, the front and back matter, any images that are in it, all the text that's in your book, the thing that we do to create a great reading experience for our readers. And we're talking about other editions of the book, ebooks, audiobooks, whether you decide to make those or not, that is definitely something that you're considering when you're thinking about book production. When we talk about publishing, we're talking about ISBNs, which is a book identifier. We're talking about registering your title, getting your metadata dialed in and in place. We're talking about Library of Congress registration, if you're interested in libraries finding your book, and copyright registration. And we're talking about setting up your accounts for companies that do print-on-demand printing. Most of you who are independently publishing will use print-on-demand printing, but you have to set up accounts with those companies and upload your files. All of that falls under publishing, along with things like retail pricing and visibility and things like that. With marketing, we're talking about your book launch, we're talking about book publicity, we're talking about author websites, and how you are going to build an author platform. Marketing is about finding your readers. So that is also going to fall on you as an independent publisher to some degree. Oh, I went back. Sorry about that. Okay. There are three basic models for authors who are thinking about independent publishing. The first is, I would say, more of a do-it-yourself model. You you are going to act as the contractor. So you are going to find the people to do the editing, to do the book design, to help you with the publishing. You're either going to find people to help you with that, or you are going to learn how to do it. And I would recommend working with book designers for cover and interior layout and things like that. Publishing tasks, you can probably learn on your own. But basically, if you're going to DIY it, you are going to need to learn what's involved in all of those and how to do them well. The second model is self-publishing assist, which is what Luminare Press does. You hire one company to help you do the tasks that you aren't able to do. Most self-publishing assists will help with any type of manuscript and anything that you are trying to get out there. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. The third model I want to talk about is hybrid. Hybrid is something you've probably heard about. It's when you work with a publisher who vets your manuscript and helps with every aspect to get it published and sold. Now, within these three models, there's a broad range of possibilities. There's a lot of companies doing all three of those, from independent contractors that you can hire for editing to hybrids who, have specialties or things like that. But you really want to think about what your goals are and how you go about doing that, in how you go about choosing this in relation to your goals. So, for instance, if your goal is to sell 100,000 copies of your book or to be on the bestseller lists or things like that, it's probably not going to happen with an investment of a few $1,000s. You're probably going to want to look at these models and see which one fits the type of goals you want. With that said, let's break down the pros and cons of each of these. Okay, so here's the do-it-yourself model, which is, I think, what most people think of when they think of self-publishing. It is not free to do it yourself, but it is probably the least expensive option. It is a learning opportunity. If you're creating more than one book or you have a series in mind or something, it might be worth your time to learn all these tasks and figure out how to do it so that you can replicate them later. There's a fairly steep learning curve to publishing, but it may be worth doing it yourself if you have more than one book. When you DIY, you keep 100% of your royalties, which is a big thing. So, you are going to not be sharing those royalties with a hybrid publisher or a traditional publisher, anybody. You're going to keep all of those. The cons are also that you're the contractor. You have to find everyone and keep all the parts moving. I think I have mentioned publishing is complex. Joy mentioned my mother's book. That was such an interesting experience for me because everybody in my family thought they knew what they were doing because they're all readers and they all like books. But the surprises along the way were constant. And I'll give you one small example. I'll give you two. The first one was nobody realized the book needed a proofread. So when she got the final copies, there were lots of errors in it because it hadn't been gone through one more time. But the bigger one was in the publication. She was printing the books on an espresso book machine in Seattle, getting them shipped to the East Coast where she lived, sending them to the Amazon fulfillment center, and losing $2 on every book she published. Nobody knew about print on demand in my family. So she didn't take advantage of that, but instead went this sort of expensive and cumbersome route to get the book out there. Fortunately, she wasn't doing it for retirement funds. She was 89 and she was okay. But it is an example of how you can sort of misjudge what you're hiring people to do. The timing and the costs of your DIY is really sort of up in the air. You're counting on contractors to do the work. They may have other jobs. They may have other things they're doing. You may not be happy with them. So it's really hard to kind of parse out what the time will be if you're on a production schedule. You will also pay for any services you choose, and you will have to vet the quality of your providers. So that is something to consider, that you're going to be, making sure that your editor's doing the right job, that your cover designer's doing the right job, and that they're doing the job that you expect them to do. And it is easy in this complex world to make costly mistakes. I gave you one example of one that my mother made. She later switched her book. I helped her figure out how to switch the book to CreateSpace, which was Amazon's print-on-demand arm at the time. But that was, there are other things that can happen that you are going to spend money on, and it may be money that was not wisely spent. We're going to move on to Self-Publishing Assist and the pros for Self-Publishing Assist. All the tasks are under one umbrella. So you can hire somebody who will help you do the editing, do the cover design, help see you through that process. In other words, you're hiring the contractor who's going to help you with that. And that means that you only need to vet one provider. You need to make sure that the company you're working with is going to do the tasks that they agreed to do and the tasks that you need done for your book. You are going to have assurance, if you're working with a reputable company, that your book will be professionally edited and designed, that it will be set up correctly for printing and distribution. But you also have, somebody in your corner who's seeing it through. So if you have trouble with editors or something, you have a third party who's involved in that, which I think is very helpful, especially if you're new to the process. Self-Publishing Assist offers a very solid foundation for marketing efforts. So, you have created, hopefully, if you've chosen a good company, you've created a book that is indistinguishable from traditionally published books on the market. And that is a really great place to start when you're trying to find your audience. And they may offer printing and distribution options. So they may offer print runs, they may offer other things, but most will use print on demand. And print on demand is a really good place to start. If you are new to this, or if you are, yeah, I would say if you're new to this, or even if you're not, print on demand is a really nice option. And I forgot about this one. It's a shortened timeline. Again, you're working on one book, you're working with a company that can help you and someone who is managing your project and making sure things are done on time. Most self-publishing companies offer 100% royalties, as I've mentioned before. The cons to self-publishing assist. There is little or no manuscript vetting, and the company has no financial investment in the outcomes. So, when authors come to me and say, what's the marketability of this book? I can tell them what I think it needs from an editing standpoint to be marketing, but I am not taking a percentage of your royalties. I do not have a financial incentive to um, to help market your book. I do, but that financial incentive is a little different when you're working with self-publishing assist. It will probably be more expensive than DIY, but maybe not, because again, when you're going with DIY, when you're doing it yourself, you don't know what that editor is going to charge, what the book designer is going to charge, what publishing assists you may need. So that is something to think about, sort of the convenience of having it under one roof and a known number versus an unknown and unknown providers, or unknown yet. Not all self-publishing assist companies offer 100% royalties. The split will be determined by the company. You need to read your contracts, you need to read what they do and understand what you're getting yourself into. They may or may not include book launch and marketing. Again, something to consider and something to plan for, because you need to understand what you need to do once that book is published to get it sold. And they may or may not include ongoing support. We do. I'm really not trying to pitch my company, but this is the one I know. We offer monthly meetings for our authors on various topics. We talk about marketing. We just did a really detailed one on how to spot scams. We try and help our authors as they're moving forward, but not everybody does that. Sometimes you're done and they are gone. And again, most will not offer distribution options. They won't offer print runs, but they will use POD. If you can live with POD, that's a great thing. Most authors can. Okay, hybrid is where you and the author, you and the publisher are both sort of assuming the risks. The pros to hybrid is that the company is invested in your success. They are invested in marketing. They are taking a cut of your royalties, so they want you to sell books. You have a solid team behind you to both produce and market your books. So that is something that most hybrids offer, and it's a good thing. They're going to be the champion for your book. You often have an option for bulk or specialty printing. It is not limited to print on demand options. And you can often get a different type of distribution than print on demand offers. So traditional distribution, some hybrids, not all, have sales forces. They will put out a catalog. They have people out there trying to sell your book for them, for you and them. The cons to hybrid is that it's going to be a significantly higher investment on your part. hiring the people to do all those things or working with the team that does all those things costs some money. Hybrid may have hidden or add-on fees. This is a big complaint I've heard about hybrids, that they have one price for producing the book and selling it, but then they're like, oh, it's going to be this much money monthly to warehouse, to market, to distribute the book. If you are doing offset print runs, you are most certainly going to have book printing costs and warehousing fees. So if you're working with a hybrid, make sure you understand that before you go into it. You will not keep 100% of your royalties. You will keep a significantly larger share than you would with a traditional publisher. So I would say, you'd be keeping maybe 75 to 80% of your royalties, which is pretty nice. The hybrid is taking a small cut of those, but in a traditional scenario, you'd probably be keeping 20%, 20, 25%. It would be flipped a little bit. Editing, book launch, marketing, everything that goes with this will increase the timeline. So hybrid publishing often takes a little longer than self-publishing assist. As I've mentioned, DIY publishing is sort of an unknown as far as timeline, but you do need to understand that this timing can be longer. Book launch can be tied to a catalog, which may only come out twice a year. So, even if your book is ready to go, you may have to wait 6 months to hit the next catalog schedule. Okay, so those are the three major types of publishing that you are probably going to encounter as you start on a self-publishing journey. How do you decide which to use? So I would say there are a lot of things affecting your decision. And this is where I think it's really important as an author to sit down and define your goals and don't limit yourself. A lot of times I talk to authors and they say to me, I don't really care if the book sells or not. And then halfway through the process, they say, what would it take for me to be on a bestseller list? They needed to ask that question at the beginning because that depends how we are putting the book together, what we are reaching, how we are advising on marketing. So you need to be honest with your goals at the beginning. You may not reach them all, but you need to build a book and choose a way to move forward that it at least has the potential to meet your goals. So desired outcome and goals are a huge factor. And I encourage every author out there to list that out, be honest about it, and keep it in mind as you're moving forward. Certainly, another factor when you're thinking about these types of publishing is going to be your budget, what you can afford, what's realistic. In the case of some books, you want to look at return on investment. And I'll talk about that a little bit, I think, later, but it's definitely something to think about as you're moving forward. You don't want to break the bank. You don't want to invest your last $2 or $3 or $5 or $10,000 in hopes of hitting it big as an author. You really want to think about what's realistic. You want to think about your timeline, how soon you would like to get the book published. I would not recommend anybody try and publish a book in less than 6 months. Somebody comes to me today and says, I want it done by Christmas. I'm going to say not likely, because to do a quality job takes some time to make sure all those moving parts work. But again, 6 months to a year is realistic for a self-publishing assist or a DIY, probably. 9 months to 18 is probably realistic for a hybrid. When you're thinking about this, you want to think about what your competencies are. And by that, I mean how skilled you are on a computer, how comfortable you are, learning new things, learning about the publishing, learning how you upload files for print on demand. This, as I said, I think it's a steep learning curve. I think it's worth doing if you're, publishing more than one book or if you're interested in that. I took on learning all of this after my mother's experience and, spent about a year kind of figuring out how I could help authors do this because it took a lot to figure out what was going on there. The other factor I think you should think about is the type of book you have. I generally do not think fiction is the best, I don't think hybrid is the best route for fiction. There are hybrid publishers out there who will argue with me about that, but I think it's difficult to get a return on investment through book royalties alone, and your investment in hybrid is going to be significantly higher. So fiction might be better suited to DIY or self-publishing assist. Nonfiction, I would say self-publishing assist and hybrid is probably better. How do you make this decision? Some of the factors that I mentioned earlier are going to come into play here. If you have more time than money, if you are tech savvy, you're comfortable working in the online space, uploading things, learning new things. If you have a book series, you're going to produce 2, 3, 5 books. Or on the flip side, if this is a hobby project, you're going to produce one book. You want it to be great. You want to take the time to learn about this. I would say for all those reasons, DIY might be a good option. And I would say add this in too, that you're comfortable with project management, because that is what you're going to have to be doing. And it doesn't serve you well if you're not comfortable with project management and you're going to get frustrated. You're not going to have a great experience with it. Okay, self-publishing assist. I always say this, if you're not counting on your book royalties for retirement, and I would not encourage anybody to do that at this point. There's a lot that goes into making a lot of money on a book. So if you want to learn that, that's great. But you're not just going to publish one book and be able to retire on it. But if you want to make some money and you have some marketing aptitude or at least a plan, I think self-publishing assist is a great way to go. I have authors who have done the full self-publishing assist process with us and then asked us if we could do just parts of it for subsequent projects, which I think is brilliant. And I'm happy to help them do that, because the first time you go around, you learn a lot. You learn what the process is, you learn what the whole project overview is going to look like. And the second time around, you understand some of that. So if you're willing to do that, if you have a marketing plan, and you know how to reach your audiences, I think self-publishing assist is a great way to go, at least the first time around. If you want a solid ROI on your book through royalties, through speaking engagements, or in the case of people who are expanding their business platform, new clients, if you're ready to promote your book, hybrid, even though it's the most expensive, might be a good avenue for you. So you might spend more money, but you will have a better chance of getting your ROI because you're publishing a book for a different reason than just book royalties. Book royalties are always going to be a baseline for your income, but most authors working today, even very popular ones, do not rely on book royalties alone for income. They have gigs teaching or training or consulting or something. But book royalties are a part of an author's income. They are often not the sole author's income. Okay, let me see what else I want to tell you, and then hopefully we'll have time for some questions here. Okay, so let me just sum this up shortly. DIY, let me see if I have a slide here or not. Nope. Okay. DIY is going to be probably your least expensive, most time consuming, and in most cases, the least professional product that you're going to have. As I said, there are very good reasons to do it, but just understand that it's going to be the least expensive, the most time consuming, and probably the least professional, because you don't have somebody kind of overlooking that whole thing. Self-publishing assist is probably going to be the most flexible. You're going to get a professional product out of it. And it's going to cost a little more. So it's going to cost you some more money up front, but in return, you're going to get a very professional product that is ready to sell on the market. Hybrid is going to give you that kind of full publishing experience. You're going to pay for it, but you're going to get that full publishing experience from manuscript vetting, from someone saying, yes, I think this manuscript has a lot of market potential, so we're going to invest in it with you, um, all the way through the marketing, through the sales force, and everything like that. So that's sort of a sum up of these three models. At Luminare Press and Lucent Book Group, we offer, Luminary Press is a self-publishing assist company. Our packages range from $3,000 to $10,000. Those prices are probably going to go up in a few months because I haven't raised them in a number of years. And I think everything's gone up these days. Um, in addition to the packages, we have additional editing and marketing. Some packages include it, some don't. We do offer 100% royalties to the authors, and we offer print-on-demand distribution. If we have an author who wants something special, a coil-bound book, a lay-flat book, Smith sewn, anything like that, we are always available to facilitate the printing process for authors. But our default is print-on-demand, which works very well for most of our authors. Our authors set up their own accounts in both KDP and Ingram Spark, so the royalties are paid directly to them. They can buy books directly through those sites, so they're only paying the print cost and shipping cost of the book. We don't make money when the author buys books for their own use or from their royalties. Lucent Book Group, I mentioned this earlier, is a new hybrid arm, an imprint that we created last year. Packages start around $15,000. We offer full editing, full manuscript vetting. This is generally designed for nonfiction books where authors are trying to expand their platform and their reach and cement their authority in their field. So this is generally nonfiction books, but we do legacy books, we do memoirs, we do things like that for authors too under this imprint. We offer 80% of royalties to authors. We offer traditional distribution, and we have marketing and sales rolled into that too. So I think, and Joy, if you're here, I didn't put this in the chat, but do you mind putting in the website for Luminary Press for me? It's www.luminarypress.com.
Yes, I will share that. I've got it's our little pretty link, but it goes directly to your website with the offer that you have for our community.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so that is a thanks. The offer we have for your community is unknown to me at this moment. I'm so sorry. I think we're offering a discount on publishing packages with Luminary Press, but please click that link and see what it is. Certainly, if you talk to me or Christine on the phone, if you schedule a time to meet with us, you will meet with either me or Christine. Let us know that you were part of this seminar and part of the Women in Publishing community. We love to talk to you, and I will hope that I will talk to some of you on the phone soon. So, I have time for questions. Joy, do you want to manage those, or do you want me to take them?
Or I'll be happy to do that for you. Whatever okay. Is best for you.
Okay,
we have a few here.
Great, go ahead.
All right, so a couple of people have asked if they would be able to get the slides. Is that something that you could send me to include with the replay?
Absolutely, I can send the slide deck. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get that out when we send the replay. It'll be with it for everyone. Okay. And then Linda asked, in the very beginning, you mentioned metadata. You referenced in the publishing breakdown, ISBN, registering title, metadata. What do you mean by that?
That's a great question, Linda. Metadata is information about your book. So when you upload your files for print-on-demand printing and distribution, I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay. All right, there we go. So when you upload your files for printing and distribution, there are a lot of fields you can fill in. The obvious ones are your book title, your author name, subtitle, but there are also things like book description, keyword. You can just put a whole lot of information, a whole lot of different places. Metadata is extremely important because it's helping with the discoverability of your book. So you want to choose the right category that your book is listed in. I think, some sites let you choose 3, some let you choose 5. Some, you have to choose from a pre-list. Some you can make a category of your own. So all of those things, along with the keywords, along with the book description, your title, which has to be consistent across all of your genres, as does your subtitle, or else it sows confusion out there in the online world, all have to be done correctly. An interesting note about book descriptions, they have changed. That is one of the things that has changed dramatically in the last year because of AI searches. So AI searches vary differently from how Google or online search engines search. So we are now building our metadata, our book descriptions, and things like that, both for AI search and for reader search. So the reader description can go on the back of the book, but a description that's designed for AI searches, it's called GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, as opposed to search engine optimization, SEO. So those are things you need to pay attention to, because if you don't, you've put the book out without kind of the foundation that it needs to be found. So that is metadata. ISBN is an international book, ISBN, International Standard Book ISBN number, International Standard Book Number. All books have them. They are simply a way of finding your book. Each edition of your book will have a unique ISBN. The print book, the paperback, hardcover, ebooks don't have to have them. We provide them for them, but it is the way people find your book and the information about it. Okay, I hope that answered your question.
That was great. Thank you. The next question is, when you say traditional distribution, what does that entail?
Yeah, so print on demand. I'll start by describing that. This print on demand was like what ushered in our era of independent publishing. You upload the files to a printer when a reader buys that book on Amazon, on barnesandnoble.com, on pals.com, on walmart.com. The book is printed at that time and sent to the reader. That is the on-demand part of that. Traditional distribution involves print runs. So you would print 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 20,000 books, and then you distribute the books to stores. Stores can order boxes of books, and they would sell them. Stores can order boxes of books with print on demand too. The book costs a little more per book to print. So print on demand can be almost double the print cost. I would say roughly double the print cost of offset or print runs, depending on how large the print run is. So traditional distribution means your book is printed through a print run. A number of books are printed. They are stored in warehouses. And when people order them, the boxes of books are shipped out. The disadvantage to this is that there are boxes of books. If you are self-publishing, you do not want boxes of books in your garage. You do not want to deal with print runs unless you have a very solid audience that you know is going to buy those 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 copies of your book. So print on demand sort of eliminated the need for print run. Traditional distribution picks up with printing and distribution in the way that you would do if you were publishing Jodi Picoult or somebody like that. I hope that makes sense.
All right, next question. If you work with a hybrid publisher and aren't happy, can an author buy the rights to their book from the publisher and own all the rights for publishing on their own?
Again, really good question, but it really depends on your contract with the publisher. So you need to know that going in, if you can have the rights back to your book or not. I have had authors who have done that. People who've come to me and said, I now own the rights to my book. Can we republish? The publisher will most likely discontinue the book under their ISBN. The publisher is the person who holds the ISBN. So they will probably discontinue that, make it out of print, that particular version. And if you have the rights, or if you've been able to obtain the rights, you can reprint it as you like. So that is true with a hybrid. It's true with traditional publishers. The rights to your book are something you want to make sure that you are very solid on before you enter a contract with anyone.
Okay. And someone is also asking specifically about Luminare Press. Are you limited to US only? And do you take clients from the
No.
UK?
Yes, we do. We actually publish books worldwide. We have clients all over the world, largely in the United States, but I would say we probably have a couple dozen clients in other countries, including the UK. We set up the distribution through print on demand. Amazon reaches into most countries. Caitlin, who's our publishing specialist, can tell you if there are any it doesn't, but I know that it distributes in the UK.
Perfect. And then this question is sort of similar to the one that you answered just a moment ago, but is there any protection for an author's book if a publisher goes out of business? Should the author get their own ISBN number or put anything into the contract with the publisher?
That is a question that haunted me from the day I started my business. So I really did think as a small business owner, and partly based on some of my mother's experience, what happens if the publisher goes out of business? What happens if when I started it, it was just me. What happens if I get hit by a truck? My family doesn't know anything about this. So I have all my authors set up their own accounts with both KDP and Ingram Sparks. So if something happens to me or to my company, you still have access to all that. The accounts are in your name. The ISBN doesn't matter quite as much. You can get your own ISBN, but it's not as critical. So in other words, if I went out of business, if Luminare Press went out of business, and I have no plans to do so, the ISBN would still be good. It would be registered to Luminare Press. The copyright is still in your name. The copyright belongs to the author, but the ISBN does not have anything to do with the author or with the copyright. I'm sorry. So you can get your own ISBN, but then you have to sort of set up a publishing company and a publishing name and publish under that. Whereas if you work with a self-publishing assist or you're doing a DIY model, well, if you're doing a DIY, you probably do need to get your own ISBNs. If something happens, you need to make sure you have access to your print on demand account. So again, this is a question I would ask a publisher. What are the plans if something happens to you? I have authors ask me that all the time. It does matter for the hybrid arm because we have, an ongoing financial involvement with those authors. And I personally have a plan in place. My staff is much younger than me. And I have one person who's sort of designated to see that through, even if something were to happen to the company. So yeah, get your own ISBN or don't, but it's not the more important thing is who owns the accounts and how you would access them if the publisher went out of business.
Perfect. All right. I just want to let people know, and I did put this in the chat, but the Luminaries offers for our community are a Kindle Goodreads giveaway included for free with our publishing packages and free access to our self-publishing class. So that's what you'll find at that link. And then we do have one other question that is here in the chat. What if I want 100 books printed up front and use print on demand ongoing? How would that work? And is there a discount for volume?
That is an excellent question. I love that. So no, the thing about print on demand and the thing I love about it is that you can print one book today and 100 tomorrow, and the price is going to be the same per book. Now, if you're moving up into the thousands, I think you get a slight discount from Ingram. But if you want to order 100 books and say your book costs $4, you are going to pay $400 plus some shipping. If you want to order one book, you're going to pay $4 plus some shipping. The thing I like about this is that it allows you to manage your inventory. So if you're going to a book show, you can buy those 100 books to sell there yourself and you will keep a significantly higher percentage of the profits if you do that because you're not paying a third party to sell your book. And you'll probably get a little discount on shipping. I think it costs less to ship 100 books per book than it does to ship one book, although I'm not sure. Um, both those sites, KDP and Ingram, have print and shipping calculators on them. So this is one of the things that you sort of have to dig around and find. Once you find that, you can enter your book details. They will tell you exactly how much it costs to print and ship them. So you're not going into anything blind. You will understand what you're getting into. But the bulk discounts only come, I think, around the thousands. And I think that is offset. The slightly higher cost per book is offset by being able to manage inventory and not having to invest in 10,000 books upfront to get a good price per book.
Okay, let's see. One other one here. Under the umbrella of contemporary fiction, do you see one path working better for certain subgenres? Example, contemporary romance is better suited for self-publishing versus mystery or thriller, or something along those lines.
No, I don't really see. I mean, I see self-publishing assist or DIY as being more logical paths for those books. Again, because your ROI is going to be you're depending more on book royalties. You're depending on readers finding those. Um, Let me see. Wait, what the the question was? What was?
Do you see
Uh,
one path working better for certain subgenres, specifically contemporary fiction subgenres?
yeah, yeah. I think maybe not hybrid. So DIY or self-publishing assist, I think would work better, mostly because you're paying more per publishing project for hybrid. But this goes back to your goals, what you're trying to achieve with this book. Some of my fiction authors have talks they give about other things that are related, tangential to their book. So they are out there, selling their book, talking to different groups, doing things like that. But some don't. Some are really just looking at book royalties. I would say it's a question of how much you invest, how professional you want to be. I will say if you are marketing a book, you have to put out a professional book. 4 million books out there. It's hard to get traction. You don't want to lose traction because your book is poorly edited, because your cover design is AI generated. I have seen some horrific AI generated covers. You really want to think about your reader and what's going to compel them to buy that book, but you don't want to risk alienating people because you didn't bother to get a copy edit when you were um, going through the process.
Right. We have another question that's in the, I think we have time for, and it is, what would be the path for having a book launch and tour?
A tour, a book launch, first of all, you create the professional book. Second, you build your marketing while you are doing the book. You don't wait until the book is published to determine marketing. So you kind of build with marketing at the beginning. You do not want to, as I said, get that book published and say, now what? So you are kind of being comprehensive about how you are approaching this book publication and how you are going to market your book. Going on tour, I would suggest, is probably best done by Zoom or something like that. Going on book tours is expensive. Even traditional publishers will not send authors on book tours often. My authors have great success speaking locally or regionally, doing book signings and readings and presentations locally and regionally at book fairs, at writers' conventions, at things like that. It's generally a way you start small and build. So I would say, if you can, one of my authors um, reached out to book clubs. Her goal was to do, and this was during the pandemic. She wanted to Zoom with 100 book clubs in 2 years, I think. And so she reached out to book clubs talking about her book and what her process was and talked to those people. I think she reached it. So those are all, ways to get out there and get in front of people. Doing it in person, locally and regionally is fine. Going on a cross country tour, I think would be challenging. But if that's what you want to do, build that in from the beginning of your publishing process and let anybody know you're working with that that's what you want, because that's important in the book development process.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to drop that link one more time. And Patricia, thank you for being with us. Is there anything else that you would like to add or just kind of say as a wrap up for everyone?
No, well, yes. I would, I would encourage you all really to think this through, think about what you want for your books, and do everything you can to make them successful. I am happy to talk to anybody. You can make an appointment with me. I have a free 15-minute consultation. I often go longer than that. I'm happy to talk you through your options. I am way better at publishing than I am at sales. So do not worry about getting a hard sell from me. But we really are here to help you and to help you figure out what path is best for you as you move forward. I wish you all tremendous success with publishing. I know that writing is hard. I know that you have done or are doing the hard work of writing. And I want you all to have a book that reflects in a great way that hard work you have done and that is able to reach your readers. So thank you all for coming today. It's really a pleasure for me to be with this community. Joy, thank you for facilitating. I appreciate that. And I hope that some of you get in touch and that we're able to connect by phone or Zoom or another way outside of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being with us today. Have a great afternoon.